Every morning across America, millions of people over the age of 50 get up, get dressed, and go to work. Not because they love their jobs, not because they feel fulfilled, but because they have no other choice. For a growing number of older Americans, retirement is not a plan. It is a distant hope that keeps getting pushed further down the road. And that road, for many, is getting longer every single year. This is not the retirement their parents knew. A generation ago, many workers spent 30 years at the same company, collected a pension, and retired with dignity and financial stability. That world is largely gone. Today, pensions have been replaced by 401(k) plans that depend entirely on the performance of the stock market. Job security has been replaced by short-term contracts, sudden layoffs, and constant corporate restructuring. And the promise of a stable, comfortable retirement has, for millions of Americans, quietly and painfully disappeared. The numbers tell a sobering story. According to the Federal Reserve's most recent survey of consumer finances, the median retirement savings for Americans between the ages of 55 and 64 is approximately $134,000. Financial planners generally recommend having at least 10 times your annual salary saved by the time you retire. For most people in this age group, that number is nowhere close to reality. The gap between what people have saved and what they will actually need is enormous, and it keeps growing wider with each passing year. And then there are the millions who have nothing saved at all. Nearly 1 in 4 Americans over the age of 60 has zero retirement savings. No 401(k), no IRAs, no pension, no investments of any kind. For these individuals, the only financial cushion that exists is Social Security. And Social Security, as most financial advisors will tell you plainly, was never designed to be a primary source of income in retirement. It was designed to supplement personal savings, not to replace them entirely, when those savings simply do not exist. The average Social Security retirement benefit in the United States is roughly $1,800 per month. In most American cities, that amount does not come close to covering rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, and healthcare combined. In expensive metros like New York, San Francisco, or Boston, it covers barely half of basic monthly living expenses. Millions of retirees are quietly going into debt just to survive, drawing down whatever savings they have left, borrowing from adult children, or making the heartbreaking choice to skip prescription medications at the end of the month, just to keep the lights on. But the retirement crisis does not begin at retirement. It begins much earlier. Often at the exact moment an older worker loses their job. Layoffs among workers over 50 are not rare or isolated events. They are, in many industries, a deliberate and calculated cost-cutting strategy. Companies restructuring their operations frequently target their most senior employees first. Workers who earn the highest salaries carry the most expensive benefits packages, and are often viewed, fairly or not, as less adaptable to rapid technological change. When layoffs begin, decades of experience are frequently the first thing shown the door. The data is unambiguous. Workers over 55 who lose their jobs face unemployment periods that last significantly longer than those experienced by younger workers. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has consistently shown that the average duration of unemployment for workers in this age group exceeds 6 months. And for a substantial number, it stretches well beyond a year. Every month without income is another month that retirement savings shrink. Credit card balances grow, and the mathematical possibility of a secure retirement moves further out of reach. Age discrimination in hearing is illegal under the Age Discrimination in Employment Act of 1967. But legality and reality are often two very different things. Researchers have conducted large-scale studies in which identical resumes were submitted to employers, the only variable being the applicant's age. Older applicants received significantly fewer callbacks, even when their qualifications were equal to or stronger than younger candidates. The discrimination is real, it is widespread, and it is extremely difficult to prove in a court of law, which means it continues largely unchallenged and unaddressed. Many older workers do not even recognize what is happening to them at first. They assume the job market is simply slow. They update their resumes, refresh their LinkedIn profiles, reach out to old colleagues, and wait. Weeks pass, then months. The rejection emails, when they arrive at all, are brief, impersonal, and generic. Many applicants never hear back at all. After enough time, the silence becomes its own kind of answer. One that is deeply demoralizing and very hard to recover from. When reemployment does happen, it rarely comes at the same level as before. Studies have found that older workers who are reemployed after a layoff earn, on average, significantly less than they did before. Sometimes 20 to 30% less. Benefits are often reduced or eliminated entirely. The new job may not offer health insurance, retirement contributions, or paid leave. Workers who spent decades building careers find themselves essentially starting over, at a fraction of the compensation they once had. Healthcare is one of the most painful and under-discussed dimensions of this crisis. Medicare eligibility begins at 65. But millions of older workers lose their employer-sponsored health insurance years before that. At 55, at 58, at 62. Private health insurance for a single individual in their early 60s can cost anywhere from $1,200 to $2,000 per month in premiums alone, before deductibles and out-of-pocket costs. For someone already managing reduced income after a job loss, this is not a minor inconvenience. It is a financial catastrophe that can erase years of careful saving in a matter of months. Some workers make the deeply painful decision to claim Social Security benefits early, at 62 rather than waiting until full retirement age. They need the income now, the bills cannot wait. But claiming early comes at a permanent cost. Benefits claimed at 62 are reduced by as much as 30%, compared to what a person would receive at full retirement age. It is a decision that locks millions of Americans into permanently lower monthly payments for the rest of their lives. A choice made not out of financial planning or strategy, but out of desperation. The psychological toll of all of this is profound and almost entirely invisible in economic data. Job loss at 50 or 60 does not feel the same as it does at 25. Younger workers carry the quiet confidence that time is on their side. Older workers know they may not have the years left to rebuild what they have lost. The sense of loss, of professional identity, of daily purpose, of financial security, can trigger serious depression and chronic anxiety. Research has linked long-term unemployment among older adults to measurable declines in both mental and physical health. Across the country, nonprofit organizations and workforce development centers are doing what they can to help. Programs tailored specifically to adults over 50 offer job training, resume workshops, interview coaching, and digital literacy courses. AARP runs free programs in cities nationwide to help older workers navigate online hearing platforms and build the skills that today's employers expect. These efforts make a real difference in individual lives, but they are reaching only a fraction of those who need help. The demand is far greater than the available resources, and community-level programs alone cannot solve a structural economic problem of this scale. Policymakers in Washington have taken some notice. Proposals have been introduced to strengthen age discrimination protections, expand federally funded workforce retraining programs for displaced older workers, and adjust the Social Security formula to better support long-term beneficiaries. Some states have passed stronger anti-discrimination laws and invested in older worker employment initiatives. But progress at the federal level has been slow, and the scale of the legislative response falls far short of the scale of the crisis itself. Millions of people cannot afford to wait for gradual policy change. The retirement crisis in America is not a future problem. It is not a warning, it is not a projection. It is happening right now, in households across every state. In the quiet and desperate calculations people make at kitchen tables late at night, staring at numbers that do not add up. Millions of Americans worked hard, saved when they could, and played by the rules of a system that stopped holding up its end of the bargain. The question facing this country is no longer whether this crisis is real. It clearly is. The question is whether those in positions of power are willing to act with the urgency it demands, before millions more Americans simply run out of time.